The broken ship that shouldn't exist. The sky above Earth's orbit cracked with a strange light. At first, no one noticed it. It looked like a shooting star, nothing more. But then, telescopes picked up something strange. It was not falling, it was landing, and it wasn't from Earth. People from space agencies all over the world started panicking. The object was massive, like a flying city. It moved like it was broken, like something inside it was barely alive. It crashed slowly into a deserted part of South America, making no noise, no explosion, no fire, just a soft hum that shook the ground. They called it a ship, but no one could identify its metal, its shape, or even its purpose. It had no engines, no windows, no doors, just glowing lines across its body. Military surrounded the crash site, blocking satellites, stopping cameras. No one was allowed close except one man. His name was Jace Carter. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist, he was a mechanic, an ordinary one. He fixed old satellites and scrapped ships for a living, but Jace had something others didn't. He could feel machines. When he touched them, he knew what was broken and how to fix it. The government didn't trust him, but the ship did. When Jace approached, the ship lit up. Soft blue lines glowing where he walked. The soldiers stepped back, confused and scared. Jace touched the hull gently, and the ship opened. A narrow doorway appeared out of nowhere. Everyone yelled at him to stop, but Jace didn't listen. He felt something calling him from inside. Not a sound, not a voice, but a pull. He walked in alone, and the door closed behind him. The inside of the ship was dark and alive. The walls were smooth but pulsing like skin. Tiny lights floated in the air like fireflies. He walked slowly, unsure if the ship was watching him. Then suddenly, a voice spoke. "You are not one of us," it said deep and echoing. "You are not meant to be here." Jay stopped, but he didn't run. He looked around and whispered, "Then why did you open for me?" Silence. Then the ship replied, "Because I am broken and only you can fix me." A blue light guided him deeper into the ship. He saw broken machines, twisted wires, leaking energy, melting walls. It looked like the ship had been attacked from inside. He saw strange symbols on the walls, glowing red. They pulsed like they were bleeding. As Jace touched the panels, he felt pain, not his, but the ship's. This wasn't just metal. This ship was alive. It had a mind, a soul, and maybe even feelings. He worked fast, using only the tools in his belt. He patched cables, rewired systems, and calmed the wild energy. As he worked, the voice spoke again, softer now. "You do not know who I am, do you?" "No," Jay said, wiping sweat from his brow. "And I don't care. I just know you're in pain." The ship went silent for a moment. Then it said, "I am the vessel of the Emperor, ruler of the Zandari Empire. And you have touched a sacred thing." Jace froze. He had heard of the Zandari, a powerful alien race far beyond Earth. Their ships were never seen, only feared. If this ship was royal, why was it here, and why was it broken? Before he could ask, a hologram appeared in front of him. It showed an alien, tall and armored, sitting on a throne. Then it showed the throne exploding, guards turning against the Emperor, and the ship escaping into space with him inside, wounded and dying. Now it all made sense. The Emperor had fled his own people. They tried to kill him, and his last hope was this ship, now dying on a quiet planet called Earth. Jace looked around, now realizing the weight on his shoulders. He wasn't just fixing a ship, he was holding the fate of an empire in his hands. He whispered to himself, "What did I just step into?" Outside, satellites picked up movement. Alien ships were entering Earth's orbit, unmarked, silent, and fast. They were coming for the Emperor's ship. They didn't know a human was inside, and they didn't care who got in their way. Inside, Jace kept working. The lights pulsed stronger. The ship began to heal, but time was running out, and Jace had no idea what price he would pay for saving something that shouldn't even exist. The voice in the wreckage. The ship was silent again. Jace stood in the middle of a glowing chamber, surrounded by walls that breathed like lungs. His hands were covered in oil and glowing dust, and he could feel the ship watching him. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Are you still there?" For a few seconds there was nothing. Then the voice returned, deeper than before. Yes, human, it said, I am still here. But this time it didn't sound cold. It sounded tired, wounded, like a king hiding behind his own shadow. Where are you? Jace asked, spinning slowly. The chamber responded, lighting up with gentle waves of blue. Then a section of the wall melted into a doorway. The voice said, Come. Jace followed without question. Something inside him told him this wasn't just a machine, this was a soul trapped in metal, and it needed him. As he stepped into the next room, the air grew colder. He saw what looked like a throne, dark metal with roots growing into the ship's floor, but the throne was empty. Then he looked up, and there he was. A tall alien figure stood in a glass chamber, floating in green light. His armor was cracked, his face pale blue with silver marks. He looked like a warrior, but also like a dying god. That's the Emperor? Jace whispered. Yes, the voice replied, and I am his mind. I speak because he cannot. Jace walked closer to the chamber, staring at the being inside. The Emperor's body didn't move, but Jace could feel his presence. It was like being near a mountain that might fall at any second, powerful, ancient, and heavy with secrets. What happened to him? Jace asked. He was betrayed. The voice answered. His council turned against him, poisoned his mind, damaged his ship. They wanted him dead, but I escaped with him. But you crashed on Earth, Jace said. Yes, the voice replied. I was weak. I searched for help, but only you answered. Jace rubbed the back of his neck, nervous. I'm not a soldier, he said. I'm just a guy who fixes broken things. You fixed more than circuits, the voice said. You gave me hope. Outside, the alien ships drew closer to Earth. They masked their signals and avoided radar. No one on Earth noticed them, but the ship did. They are here, the voice warned. They followed the signal. Jace's heart pounded. What do they want? They want the Emperor's death, the voice said coldly, and they will burn your planet to get it. Jace stared at the sleeping figure in the chamber. You have weapons, right? Yes, the voice said, but they are broken. Only if I am fully repaired can I fight. Then tell me what to fix, Jace said, without thinking. His voice was steady now, not scared. He knew fear wouldn't save anyone. The ship responded, opening more doors. Inside were strange machines, some glowing, some sparking, some leaking liquid that hissed when it touched the floor. The ship said, You must fix the power core. It is my heart. If it dies, I die. Jace climbed down into a narrow shaft, holding onto hot rails and slippery rungs. The deeper he went, the more alien everything became. There were no wires now, only glowing veins and pulsing walls. It felt like he was inside a giant creature. At the center he found it, a huge crystal floating above spinning rings of energy, but it was cracked. The energy was unstable, bursting out in waves that shook the walls. He looked at the tools in his bag, nothing special, just human-made junk, but he knew what to do. I'll need to stop the pulses first, he muttered. He linked a wire to a metal clamp and carefully placed it across the broken side of the crystal. Sparks flew, the room screamed, but the crystal held. Then he heard a whisper, not from the ship, but from the Emperor. Human, it said softly. Jace looked up, shocked. Did you just speak? I feel your hands, the Emperor said. I feel your kindness. Jace didn't know what to say. He tightened the final bolt, and the energy surged. The ship glowed from within, every wall lighting up. The power returned, and the ship began to heal itself. Above, Earth's military detected strange movements in orbit, but by the time they looked up, it was too late. The alien warships were already aiming their weapons at Earth. Inside the ship, the voice spoke again. Now, human, it said, I will show you the real stars. The floor lifted, and Jace rose with it. Screens appeared around him, showing the enemy fleet. They are coming. And we will be ready, Jace replied, eyes sharp. The ship pulsed once more, its power returning with a hum that echoed across the ground. Jace stood tall in the center, ready to defend a world that didn't even know it was in danger, because now a human stood between Earth and total war, and he wasn't going to back down. The human touch. The ship was alive again, Power surged through its veins like blood rushing back into a wounded body. Lights pulsed across the walls, glowing softly as if breathing in relief, and deep in the command core, the Emperor's heart beat stronger, but none of that would have happened without one thing. A human's hands. Jace Carter stood at the center console, his face lit by screens that showed orbiting danger. The alien warships were getting closer, weapons armed, silent and deadly. They were not sending messages, not giving warnings, because they weren't here to talk. They were here to finish what they started. The ship whispered to Jace, "You must take control." Jace blinked, confused. "Me? I'm not a pilot." "You are now," the voice said firmly. "No one else can do this. I am tied to your touch." Jace looked down at the control table. It didn't have buttons or levers, just smooth glass and shifting lights. He reached out slowly and the console responded. Symbols danced under his fingers like ripples on water as his hand moved. The ship shifted around him. Panels rose, chairs unfolded, and walls stretched into new shapes. The ship was rebuilding itself in his image, adapting to human control. The voice spoke again, softer this time. "No one in our empire ever treated me gently. They barked orders, gave commands, never cared. But you fixed me without fear." Jace gave a small smile. "Machines talk if you listen," he said. The ship hummed like it was smiling back. In the chamber above, the Emperor's body twitched. His stasis chamber glowed brighter, healing faster than before. The human's touch was changing more than wires. It was healing something deeper, something broken inside the Emperor himself. Meanwhile, Earth was still unaware. No alarms were raised, no defense systems triggered. The alien fleet had cloaked itself perfectly, but they made one mistake. They didn't expect the ship to come back online, and they didn't expect a human inside it. Jace leaned forward, studying the enemy's ships through a floating display. "They've surrounded the planet," he said. The voice replied, "They believe we are still weak. They are wrong." "But I don't know your weapons," Jace said honestly. "I don't know your strategy." "You have something better," the voice replied. "You have instinct." Jace laughed once. "That's not how space wars are won." "Maybe not in your world," the voice said, "but in ours, it may be exactly what we knew." "Gado." Jace laughed once. "That's not how space wars are won." "Maybe not in your world," the voice said, "but in ours, it may be exactly what we need." The ship guided him to the weapons bay. Long metal arms rose from the floor, attaching glowing modules to the outer hull. Cannons formed like metal flowers blooming in reverse, but one section remained dark, damaged beyond auto repair. Jace walked over to inspect it. The barrel was melted, the support frame broken. He could feel the structure crying out. He knelt down, touched it, and closed his eyes. "Talk to me," he whispered. The ship pulsed under his hand. A memory flashed in his mind. An alien engineer yelling, tearing out pieces, blaming the ship for his own failure. No wonder it was afraid. Jace grabbed tools from his bag, simple earth tools, nothing fancy. He bent the frame carefully, melted 2 plates together with a makeshift torch. He replaced a busted coil with a copper wire from his earpiece. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. The cannon lit up. The entire room vibrated in approval. "You did it," the voice said in awe. No one else ever listened. Jace stood up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I don't need to be perfect," he said. "I just need to care." At that moment, the Emperor stirred again. Inside his chamber, his eyes moved, his fingers twitched, and his mind opened, feeling everything Jace had done. A whisper escaped his lips. "Human." It was barely a sound, but it meant everything. Outside, the alien fleet began to charge their main weapons. A red glow appeared in Earth's upper atmosphere. Time was almost up, the voice warned. "We must act now. If they fire, your planet burns." Jace stepped into the command center, the lights adjusting to his presence. The ship no longer resisted him. It welcomed him. He placed his hands on the main console. "Then let's protect my home," he said. The ship surged, with energy, ready to fight, but not with anger, with purpose. One human, one broken ship, and a dying emperor. Together, they were about to change everything, because in a galaxy ruled by cold logic and ruthless power, only a human's touch could bring warmth back to the stars, enemies in orbit. The stars above Earth looked calm, but behind that silence, death waited. 20 alien warships now circled the planet like silent sharks. Their weapons were charged, their signals dark. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to erase the last witness, the Emperor. But what they didn't know was this. The Emperor wasn't dead, and the one standing between them and Earth was just a human. Inside the ship, Jace stared at the floating battle map. Red lights blinked all around Earth. Each one was an enemy ship ready to fire. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. "They're closing in," he said. The voice of the ship replied, calm and ancient. "They believe we are still broken." "They believe wrong," Jace said quietly. The ship pulsed with light, its systems rebuilding faster. Panels unfolded, weapons realigned, and shields began to glow. Jace stood in the command ring, now fully bonded with the ship. He was no longer a guest, he was its pilot. But even with the repairs, the ship was still damaged. One engine was offline, the shield core wasn't at full power, and the weapons, some worked, but others were unstable. Jace knew this wasn't going to be a fair fight. "Can we run?" he asked. "Not without leaving Earth behind," the voice replied. "Then we don't run," Jace said. "We make them chase us." He scanned the enemy formation. The ships were bigger, faster, and built for war, but they followed patterns. Too perfect, too confident. Jace smiled. "Let's break their formation." He triggered the engines, pushing the ship into a fast dive around the Earth's orbit. The enemy fleet reascended, instantly turning and following exactly what Jace wanted. He flew low, skimming the atmosphere. Clouds burned behind him as the ship danced like a comet. Back in the healing chamber, the Emperor's eyes snapped open. He sat up, tearing free from the tubes that had kept him alive. Alarms rang inside the ship. Not from danger, but from rebirth. The door to the command chamber opened, and there he stood, the Emperor, tall, proud, and scarred, his eyes glowing with ancient power. Jace turned, stunned. "You're alive." The Emperor studied him in silence, then said, "You flew my ship." Jace nodded. "Then you saved my life," the Emperor said. He stepped forward, placing a hand on the control ring. The ship glowed brighter, stronger. Now the bond was complete. Human and Emperor together. "They will not survive this," the Emperor said, his voice like thunder. He raised his hand, and the weapons recharged. The ship's energy reached full capacity for the first time in weeks. Jace looked at the star map again. "They're still coming." "Then we finish it," the Emperor replied. The enemy fleet fired again. This time, everything they had. The sky lit up with fire, beams, and black holes. But Jace and the Emperor stood side by side. The shields held. The ship roared. "Target the command ships," Jace said. "Show them what a human can do." One by one, their shots struck home. Enemy vessels exploded in chains of light. Others tried to flee, but found nowhere to run. Earth watched from below. People stared up at the strange battle in the sky. They didn't understand what they were seeing, but they would remember this day, because today, the stars burned with human courage, and the enemies of Earth learned a terrible truth. A broken ship, a dying Emperor, and a mechanic from Earth. Together, they were unstoppable. The awakening. The stars were still burning from battle. The sky above Earth held quiet scars of war, fading trails of smoke and light where enemy ships once floated. But inside the Emperor's vessel, something even more powerful was happening. The ship was healing, and so was the Emperor. Jace stood near the center of the ship, watching screens flicker with strange alien codes. His hands were steady now, his breathing calm. He had flown a royal warship through battle, saved Earth from destruction, and seen things no human ever had. But still, something inside him whispered, this was just the beginning. Behind him, the Emperor stood tall, silent, watching him work. There was something different in the way he looked at Jace, not like a servant, not like an outsider, but like an equal. "You fixed my ship," the Emperor said at last. Jace turned, unsure how to respond. "I only did what I could," he said. "You did more than that," the Emperor replied. "You gave it life again." The room around them pulsed with golden light. The ship's core was running at full strength, its systems no longer failing. But as the light grew, so did the Emperor's energy. His scars began to fade. His voice grew stronger. He was not just recovering, he was evolving. "You are different from the others," the Emperor said. Jace tilted his head. "You mean other humans?" No, the Emperor said, stepping closer. I mean everyone I've ever met. Jace didn't know how to answer that, but before he could speak, a siren blared through the ship. A flashing red light filled the chamber. They're back, the voice of the ship said. Another fleet, larger this time. Jace's heart dropped. How many? 32 ships, the voice replied. Carriers, destroyers, even a dreadnought. Jace looked at the Emperor, expecting fear. But the Emperor smiled. Let them come, he said. Let them see who I have become. The ship lifted from Earth's orbit slowly, glowing with new strength. Its scars were gone, its weapons charged. Jace stood beside the Emperor, the two of them now fully linked to the vessel. But what happened next wasn't war, it was something else, something the galaxy hadn't seen in 1,000 years. The Emperor raised his hand toward a glowing panel. From it, a beam of light shot out into space, faster than anything Jace had ever seen. What was that? Jace asked. A message, the Emperor said, to the Council. You're warning them? No, he said. I'm declaring my return. Jace watched the stars ahead. The new fleet was approaching fast, forming attack lines, but something strange happened. They didn't open fire, they stopped. The dreadnought, the largest ship in the fleet, sent out a signal, a request for communication. Jace raised his eyebrows. They want to talk now? The Emperor stepped forward. Open the channel. A hologram appeared, an alien general in dark armor. He looked shaken. My Emperor, he said, voice trembling. We thought you were dead. The Emperor didn't smile. He simply said, You betrayed me. The general tried to speak, but the Emperor raised his hand. I was betrayed, he said. But I have returned, and I was not alone. He turned slightly, motioning toward Jace. This human saved me. He fixed my ship, protected my life, and stood against your weapons. The alien general blinked, confused. A human? Yes, the Emperor said. And now, he stands with me. Jace swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the weight on his shoulders. He was just a mechanic, but now he was standing before an entire empire. The general lowered his head. We await your command. The Emperor looked at Jace, his eyes sharp. What should we do with them? He asked. Jace was stunned. You're asking me? You brought me back, the Emperor said. Now I want to see how a human shows mercy. Jace looked at the hologram of the general, then at the map of Earth still glowing below them. He remembered the fear, the fire, the ships aiming at cities that never knew they were targets. But he also knew something else. Revenge only brought more war. Disarm them, Jace said. Let them live, but make them know they lost. Let them see what one human can do. The Emperor nodded, pleased. The alien fleet surrendered without firing a shot. Their weapons shut down. Their ships moved back into peaceful orbit. The Emperor turned toward the command room, his voice calm. Prepare my throne. The ship responded instantly, reshaping the chamber, forming a new platform at the center. The Emperor stepped up onto it, his eyes glowing with power. But then he paused. He turned around and looked at Jace, and without warning he knelt. Everyone on the ship, in the fleet, across the Empire saw it. The Emperor of the Xandari bowed to a human, and in that moment, the galaxy changed forever. The war for the throne. The throne room was alive with power. The ship floated high above Earth, no longer hiding. The stars watched in silence as history was rewritten. Jace stood near the Emperor's throne, still unsure if this was real. He was just a mechanic from Earth. Now alien fleets obeyed his words, and the Emperor of an ancient race had bowed before him. But peace was never easy, and power always attracts enemies. Far beyond Earth's orbit, deep in the dark edges of space, a signal echoed from a forgotten moon, a single word, return. It woke someone dangerous, someone who once ruled beside the Emperor, his brother, Lord Vekros. Long ago, Vekros and the Emperor ruled together. But greed had poisoned Vekros's heart. He tried to seize the empire for himself, and when he failed, he disappeared, hiding in the shadows, waiting, watching. Now he knew the Emperor lived, and worse, he had a human by his side. That was something Vekros couldn't allow. He bows to a lesser species, Vekros hissed. He's weak, soft, broken. I'll finish what I started. He gathered his own fleet, hidden warships from old loyalists, deadly assassins, rogue generals, mercenaries. With no flag, they didn't want peace, they wanted control. Back on the Emperor's ship, things were changing fast. The throne was glowing, the ship no longer just alive, but fully awakened. Jace walked beside the Emperor through the halls. Alien soldiers saluted him. Crew members watched him with awe. But Jace didn't feel like a hero. He still felt like the guy who used to fix broken antennas back home. "You don't have to stay," the Emperor said suddenly. "You've done more than enough." Jace looked out a nearby window, Earth glowing far below. "I can't walk away now," he said. "This fight isn't over." The ship gave off a warning hum. New contacts, enemy ships, dozens of them, moving fast through dark space. "Vekros," the Emperor whispered. "He's coming." In the command center, red lights flashed again, but this time the fleet wasn't just orbiting, it was diving straight toward Earth, weapons ready, no hesitation. This was not a show of power. This was an assassination strike. Jace slammed his hand on the console. "Raise shields." The ship obeyed, but strain showed across its systems. It wasn't made to fight back-to-back wars. The Emperor sat on his throne, his voice strong again. "Prepare for royal combat." His armor formed around him, golden plates fused with living metal. Then he looked at Jace. "Today we fight together." Jace nodded. "I've got your back." As the enemy ships reached orbit, Earth's governments finally saw them. Sirens blared across major cities, panic spread. But just before the first shot could be fired, the Emperor's ship appeared in front of the planet like a shield. Jace activated the targeting system. He didn't wait for orders. He fired first. Blue energy lanced through space, striking a rogue warship. It exploded in silence, just a flash of light, and then nothing. That was the signal. The real battle began. Lord Vekros's voice echoed across all channels. "You were weak then, brother. And now you bow to insects." The Emperor replied calmly. "Be better to stand with the brave than rule with cowards." The two fleets clashed in orbit, lasers, missiles, energy beams. Space turned into a storm of light and destruction. But something strange began to happen. The Emperor's ship started moving, on its own. "What's happening?" Jace asked. The voice of the ship replied, "We are evolving. Your repairs, your choices, your heart, it's changed me." Jace suddenly saw options on the console he'd never seen before. The ship was creating new weapons, rewriting its own systems, adapting to Jace's style. Jace grinned. "Let's show them what human creativity looks like." He rerouted energy from shields to a pulse cannon. He drew enemy ships into a trap, then fired a gravity shockwave that crushed 3 of them in one blast. The Emperor's voice rang out, "You learn fast." "I listen," Jace said with a smirk. But then everything went still. A massive dark ship appeared behind the enemy fleet. It was Vekros's personal vessel, the Hollow Throne, larger than anything in the fleet, covered in ancient armor and powered by forbidden tech. It fired once, and the blast shook the Emperor's ship violently. Alarms screamed, parts of the outer hull peeled away. Jace fell hard but got back up. "That thing's a monster." "We have to take it down," the Emperor said, "but not just with weapons." He turned to Jace. "It's time." "For what?" "For the truth." Jace didn't understand, but the Emperor walked toward the heart of the ship. There, glowing bright, was a chair, made from light and metal. "A second throne?" Jace asked. The Emperor nodded. "This ship is bonded to 2 minds now, yours and mine." Jace stepped forward slowly. As he touched the chair, the ship responded instantly. Power surged, systems synced. The 2 of them became one with the ship. Outside, the Hollow Throne charged for one final strike. Inside, 2 minds, 1 alien. On the human guided a weapon that had never been used before. Jace and the Emperor looked at each other. "Ready? Let's end this." They fired. The beam split into 12 streams of light, each targeting the core of Vekros's ship. For a second, space stood still. Then, the Hollow Throne shattered, and with it, Lord Vekros was no more. The war for the throne was over, but something far greater had just begun. The Emperor's gift. The stars were quiet again. Where once there was fire and fury, now there was only silence. The wreckage of Lord Vekros's fleet drifted through space like ashes on the wind. The Hollow Throne had fallen, and the galaxy had just watched a human help destroy it. Inside the Emperor's ship, Jace slowly rose from the second throne. His hands were shaking, his heart still pounding. He had never imagined he would help end a galactic civil war. And now, it was over. The Emperor stood beside him, tall and still. His golden armor reflected the light of distant suns, but his expression was calm, not proud, not angry, just thoughtful. "You did more than fix a ship," the Emperor said softly. "You changed everything." Jace laughed under his breath. "I just wanted to help," he said. "Didn't plan to fight an empire." The ship drifted gently toward Earth, now acting as its protector. Other alien fleets, once enemies, now followed behind, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. The human had earned their silence. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. An Earth-born mechanic had restored the Emperor, led a dying ship to victory, and stood as co-pilot of the most powerful vessel ever built. For the first time in centuries, peace was possible, not because of politics, not because of treaties, but because of trust between one human and one alien. Later that day, the Emperor summoned his council. The same leaders who once doubted him now bowed in fear. He entered the Great Hall of Stars, followed by Jace. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at the strange human walking beside the Emperor. "His man," the Emperor said, his voice loud and clear, "saved my life. He repaired my vessel, defended my throne, and fought beside me when all others fled." He stepped aside and gestured toward Jace. "Tell them, Jace Carter of Earth. Tell them what kind of gift you would take in return." Jace blinked, caught off guard. He didn't expect to be asked this in front of the most powerful aliens in the galaxy. He cleared his throat, nervous. "I didn't do this for a reward," he said honestly. "I just didn't want anyone to die." The council murmured, surprised. The Emperor raised his hand, silencing them. "And that," he said, "is why you are worthy." He turned toward a ceremonial platform made of crystal and ancient stone. From it, he lifted a small orb, glowing with golden light. "This is the heart of dominion," he said. "Given only once every 10,000 cycles," he held it out to Jace. "With this, you become more than a hero. You become a voice of judgment, a hand of mercy, and a protector of peace." Jace stepped forward slowly. The orb floated into his hands. It was warm, humming with energy that felt both alien and familiar. The Emperor bowed his head. "From this day, you are Star Warden, first of your kind. You may go where you please, speak in my name, and command fleets if you must." The hall erupted in light. Symbols of old formed in the air around him. Jace Carter, the mechanic from Earth, was no longer just a man. He was now a legend. Back aboard the ship later that night, Jace looked out a window at Earth, so small now, so fragile, but so beautiful. The Emperor joined him silently. "She is your home," he said. Jace nodded. "Will you return?" the Emperor asked. "Someday," Jace said, smiling. "But right now I have work to do." The ship hummed in agreement. It knew the stars had more battles, more broken things that needed fixing, and now it had a human who cared. As the ship turned away from Earth and entered the dark, Jace stood tall beside the Emperor, a man who touched a dying vessel, repaired an empire, and became something more. Not because he wanted power, but because he refused to walk away when something needed to be saved, and the galaxy would never forget the day a mechanic changed its fate forever.